Welcome. I'm Travis.
And I'm Tyler, and this is Strategies for Success, a show that explores many topics while aiming to equip listeners with simple and practical lessons you can use in your everyday life.
Now join us on our journey as we reach for the impossible. Hey guys, welcome. I'm Trav.
I'm Tyler.
Welcome to Strategies for Success. So me and Tyler, we've been talking about it. We're going to have some of our podcasts you'll hear back and forth where we were actually live in Orlando. But we're really excited to be part of the John Maxwell team. I did not know what to expect. We'd been doing the training online. There's some call-in sessions, and I did not know what to expect. If you haven't heard John Maxwell, I would highly recommend listening to the man. This sounds kind of cheesy when we say it, but by the time you're done listening, you feel like it's the real deal. So he had a thing where he was talking, he would say, "My name's John and I'm your friend." And you know what? At first you're like, I don't know about this. How's this guy even know me?
People would actually laugh first,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I do
like
too.
people-
I agree. And then by the time you're done, you're like, "That's my friend." And that sounds cheesy, but I have never heard a speaker, and this is coming from someone who I've been to several leadership conferences. I've been to several church conferences. I've been to church services. I've heard a lot of great speakers, Zig Ziglar, different ones. And I don't know that I've ever heard anybody quite like John Maxwell. Have you, Tyler?
He's definitely one of the best ones I've heard.
Well, the topic for today that we want to bring out, we want to talk about faith in business. So my entire life, I've been involved with business, working for my dad. My dad's been a very successful businessman. And I've also been involved in church, grew up in church, and been involved with ministry. And so to me, it was kind of like you always hear, "Hey, it's Thanksgiving, don't bring up politics or religion," you know? And it wasn't that my faith wasn't involved with business. I just didn't ever want to push it. But if someone was willing to ask me about my faith, I would always be willing to share. And when we went to the John Maxwell event, it was something very interesting happened. I noticed that with John Maxwell, he said the reason that I'm successful is because of my faith.
Yeah.
And that sparked something within me, and it kind of challenged me to make sure that my faith is included in my business.
Yeah, so when we went to this conference, John Maxwell opened up. They had a lot of speakers throughout the few days we were there. But he was the first one. He spoke for probably a little bit under an hour. And he would kind of plant these little seeds about his faith. He would talk about it. He would say that's why he's successful, as Travis mentioned. But at the beginning, or at the end of his first speech, he said, "Now, tomorrow night we're going to have a faith," they call it a faith service, I believe. Didn't say church, they called it the faith service. And he said, "Now this is not mandatory. You guys don't have to be there, but you will come."
Yeah, I liked how he did that.
Yeah. I thought that was an awesome way of doing it, because it makes you think, I do want to be there.
And you know that the people are paying quite a bit of money to be in the room to listen to all these great speakers. And I noticed when he had that faith service that it looked like there was more people there than there was actually in the training. I think people had went and got their spouse
Yeah.
and came back for the faith service.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. That was definitely an eye-opener to me. We went, and it's hard to put a number on a crowd like that when you're in the crowd, but I would say there's probably thousands of people there. Do you think?
Yeah.
So this was a huge, huge conference room, and the room was packed when we got there. So we get there, he goes through the faith service, and it was incredible, really. They sang 2 or 3 songs to start with. It was really cool to me to see people worship too. The music, there was people from really all over the world. So people from different cultures, people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities. And it was really kind of cool just to see how differently people worshiped. I mean, there was people that were, Travis and I are a little more calm. We'll sing along, but we probably don't move too much. There's some people there that were dancing around. I mean, it was really cool to see, but there was a lot of, I don't feel like it was just for show either. I think it was very authentic.
Yeah.
But he goes through after
Well, before we get there, I wanted to share this. This really stuck, and it challenged me. He talked about the basin, and he said, "You know how many times the basin is mentioned in the Bible?" And he said it's mentioned twice, I think is what he said. And he said the basin was first mentioned when Jesus wanted to wash the feet of the disciples. And he talked about, in our mind, our leadership is like, look, this guy can wash my feet because he's below me, but Jesus, you can't wash my feet because you're above me.
Yeah.
But he said, if you ever notice Jesus as the actual true example of leadership, he didn't put anyone in like you're high or low or any of that. That's a humanistic thing. He thought, look, he treated us as we're all equals, even with him. And I'm not saying that we're equal with God. I'm saying that he treated us as equals as Jesus was on earth because he loved us that much. And he was showing the example of leadership. And he said, that's how Jesus used the basin. That's how the disciples used the basin. And then he said Pilate, who had Jesus crucified, he took a basin and washed his hands and said, it's not my fault. And then he said, which kind of leader are you? Are you the kind that accepts responsibility? Are you the kind that is looking for those above and below you? Are you the kind that says, give me the basin, I'm here to wash people's feet, I'm here to be the servant leader? Or are you the guy that washes your hands and says, it's not my problem?
Yeah. Yeah, another one that stuck out to me from John speaking in this service was he said he was at a business conference, I believe, and he said it was a secular business, and he said people were asking him, where do you get your leadership content from? Where do you study? Where do you get your material from? And he said, oh, you guys really don't want to know. And they're like, no, we want to know. And he said, I really don't think you want to know. And they're like, no, please tell us. And he said, he figured out then that when you tell someone you're not going to tell them, it makes them want to know even more. So he said, this meeting he was at, he said they're actually supposed to have a cocktail hour. So he said all these people were down there. There's supposed to be alcohol involved and stuff like that. But he said, he told them that I'm going to be in the corner and I'll tell you guys how. No, actually, let me back up. He goes, I really don't think you guys want to know. And they go, no, please tell us. He goes, all right, fine. And he goes, I get all my leadership material from the Bible. And he said, the people were like, yeah. And he goes, I told you didn't want to know. And so back to, he told them, he said, well, if you guys really want to know more about it, he said, during this cocktail hour, he said, I'll just set up a table over in the corner. I'll be sitting there if anybody wants to talk about this. So he said he got there early on and he goes over to get in the corner. And he said there was a line waiting to talk to him. And he said, I don't remember if it was an hour or two, but he said it went through the whole time and he didn't even get to talk to everybody that was there, that was in line waiting for him, because there was that many people that were curious. There's that many people that wanted to know. And so I think, as Travis and I talked about this on our trip, a big thing that we reflected on was it's very interesting how he was able to talk about business and leadership, but plant those seeds of how the faith is the root of all his success and why he values people. So that got a lot of people's minds, got their wheels turning to think, oh, okay, that makes sense. He builds a lot of credibility with the audience. And then he tells them, okay, all this stuff I've been telling you, this is where I get it from. It's from the Bible. And he tells about servant leadership, just like Jesus is. He was the ultimate example of a leader. And so I think he kind of gets people's curiosity piqued with the leadership stuff, planting those small ideas in their head about the faith, and then he kind of hammers it home during this faith service. So we go through the whole service, and a very powerful lesson that he taught. And then he asked, we kind of knew it was coming. There's going to be an altar call type of situation where he asked if anybody wants to get saved. Now, I'm not saying this is great to do, but he typically, like if you've been to a lot of church services, if someone wants to get saved, the pastor or the preacher or whatever, he tells you to close your eyes. Everybody's heads bowed, eyes closed. And I remember in that moment, I'm thinking, I'm looking around. And so that probably wasn't the best thing to do. But when I looked around, there was all kinds of hands being raised. And I really just wanted to experience, I wanted to see that. And there was a lot of hands. It was incredible. There was a lot of people that went forward. They repeated the prayer after him, and he invited them afterwards to come up, and
this was my coolest thing that I thought right here.
Yeah, he gave them a Bible. And it wasn't just a dollar Bible that you just go get at the dollar store. This was a really nice Bible. I think it was one of the Maxwell leadership Bibles where it talks about a lot of the leadership lessons along with Scripture and tells you what Scripture backs up that lesson. But there was people there that spoke different languages. There was people there that didn't even speak English, so they had Bibles. They passed out English Bibles and they passed out Spanish Bibles. But one of the cool things that stuck out to me while they were doing this too was he invited his team up. He invited the Maxwell speakers, his team up that people that were helping running the event, the other speakers, and they all were servants to these crowd of people that just got saved. They all passed out Bibles to them. And so it was an incredible experience. I'd never been around something like that where there was that many people that accepted Jesus as their Savior at one time. I mean, I think it was, here again, it was hard to count, but it was probably 300 or 400 people if I just had to guess.
And they stood there until everybody got a Bible, and he shook hands with whoever wanted to shake hands. He has a way of making you feel important when there's thousands of people in the room.
One thing I noticed he kept saying was, he said, walk slowly through the crowd. He said, there's a lot of leaders that don't want to talk to anybody. They want to just get from A to B and get out of my way. And he said he'd stand around and talk to people all day if he could, but he's got stuff to do. But he said he walks slowly through the crowd and talks to everybody along the way, makes them feel important.
So why does faith belong in business? So, you know, integrity. Faith calls to us to be consistent, to be honest, and that's a critical part in business. And that's the people that I want to hire to work for me. I want them to have some integrity.
Yeah.
You know, I want to know that I'm working with that kind of team. Servant leadership, just like he teaches. He has a book called High Road Leadership, and I really liked, he has another book called Jesus, the High Road Leader, and it has a workbook to go along with it. I've just started kind of looking through that book, but it's really good. And the High Road Leader is following Christ's example. Purpose over profit, right? If you get so focused on making a dollar that you forget what the purpose of why you're here, why you're in business, what we've mentioned this in the past episodes, but what kind of legacy are you leaving? If it's so focused on profit, it's going to be gone when you're gone. But if you're investing in other people in the next generation, it's going to be there forever.
And I think a lot about what is pushed in our society is money, 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 profit. That's all that matters. I see videos all the time. I feel like I'm a pretty motivated person, but I've heard some other speakers speak out a little bit about, hey, you know, if you got a hobby and you want it to be fun, right now everyone's like, that's going to be my new side hustle. I'm going to make some money off of it. Sometimes you got to have some stuff that just is fun. Sometimes you do have to have stuff that will just let you help other people and not worry about a dollar.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
There's a lot of times where you can make a dollar and it really doesn't. I've felt this way where there's times where you may have an objective at work or something. You're like, oh, you know, I got a raise at work or something like that. At the end of the day, you still don't really feel fulfilled if you're not helping people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Courage. It takes courage to live those values openly in your workplace.
Yeah.
You know, there's days when I've got people coming in, they're not treating me very nice, and I want to kind of tell them what I thought. But that's where it goes back to discipline and also following my own values and my own purpose.
Yeah. So here are some practical ways that you can live out blending business with faith. So I think too, as Travis was mentioning, a lot of people view that as box A, box B. I'm a Christian in box A. I'm a employee in box 2. And those really need to be one big box. You need to blend it. You need to just think of, I mean, you can't, if you're a Christian, you can't be a Christian at some points and not some other points. So you're really not that good of a Christian. And everybody messes up and makes mistakes, but you got to be a Christian all the time because that's what guides your entire life. That is your compass. The Bible is your compass. That's what guides your entire life. How you make those decisions in business. So here's a few practical ways.
It's not a part-time job.
Yeah, exactly. So lead by values, not just vision. Make your core values. Make sure that they're visible in how you treat employees and customers and partners in business. Make sure that they can see your values. That you shouldn't have to say, hey, I'm an honest person. I kind of joke about that with my dad sometimes. Is a lot of times when people say, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a super honest person. The first thing you think about is, this guy's probably going to lie to me right after he says that, because why would he have to tell me he's an honest person? You know?
Let me throw one out for you. I've always kind of made it an effort not to stay in places that say clean rooms. Don't eat in places that say good food. Mm-hmm. If they have to tell you they got good food or the rooms are clean, that's probably a problem, just like what you're saying.
Yep. Show people, lead by those values so that they know what those values are. Create a culture. So using those values, you create a culture of respect and service. People should feel like they're valued, not that you just use them to make a dollar.
Exactly.
You got to be authentic. Don't, like we mentioned this, don't compartmentalize your faith. Let it influence your decisions every day. It's not just a part-time thing. Like Travis said, you got to be authentic all the time.
I think when Maxwell was talking about walking slowly through the crowd, that's what he was referring to, because people associate him as a person, not just somebody that's a speaker. And when he's saying, I'm your friend, it reinforces him coming through the crowd.
Yeah. And they said different sayings, variations of the saying a lot throughout the time. But one of the biggest things that they said was be a person of values that values other people.
Yep.
And it's hard to be a person of values if you don't value other people.
Exactly.
I mean, it's hard to get one or the other. You got to really go all in on that. You got to have both of them.
I like this next one here.
Yep. So look for opportunities to encourage others. Pray for your team. Offer words of life, not of death. Be positive, not negative. You want to mentor younger leaders. So there's times where I've had people that probably were a mentor to me, but going to all this, it helped me realize to be more intentional in everything. So if you got someone that you'd like to be your mentor, you got someone that you want to mentor, use the word mentor and say, hey, I'd like to be your mentor. I want to be intentional in helping you.
Exactly.
And remember the ripple effect. So just as Maxwell's courage led 300 people responding to Jesus, your impact, it can impact far more than you imagine. So think about if they had this conference for 3 days and all that came out of it was that 300 people got saved, I would say that's an astounding.
It's a big win.
That's a big, big, big win.
If you guys remember from several episodes back, I said that someone had challenged me to ask the question, do you know Jesus? And what they were referring to was John Maxwell here on asking people about Jesus. And I got so focused on our weekly meetings with boys ministry that I had been forgetting to ask the question. When I asked the question, there was a boy who had been coming for about 6 weeks that said he wanted to know more about Jesus. And I felt so bad because here I've been getting up every week for 6 weeks and I had not asked that question.
Yeah.
So remember that ripple effect.
Yeah.
And you know what that means? It's time for the challenge.
It's time for the challenge. So when people look at the way you do business, do they also see the way that you live your faith? Ask yourself that question. So this week, find one intentional way. We talked about being intentional. Find one intentional way to blend your faith and your leadership. Blend your faith into your leadership. Whether that's how you handle a tough decision, it could be how you encourage somebody, it could be how you prioritize people, and basically value them more than just making a buck.
I'm going to tell you, if you guys really try that, that is tough. And it's not that I didn't value people over a profit, but it's like I got to have money to pay the bills and and all the stress and everything that you deal with as a business owner or even a manager. And then you got to value these people. And sometimes don't fall into this. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be very just open for a minute. And don't fall into that calling people stupid. Don't fall into that saying that guy's an idiot. Because you know what? You're falling into the trap. People are valuable. What did you say Maxwell said?
People of value that value others.
Yes, exactly.
So here's one more thing I thought of as Travis was saying that. I told him that, I guess this is me being honest too. I told him how I've kind of stepped into a leadership and management role. It's been difficult for me at times because there's people pretty much always asking you for stuff. Sometimes it gets old and it feels like they just want something for nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so as Travis was saying, you got to make money to be able to be a leader and provide for those that your employees and their families and stuff. But I told Travis, I said, sometimes, I try to be a very giving person and try to be very tenderhearted. And I said, most of the time, if someone came up to me and said, hey, would you help me with this? My automatic answer would be yes.
Mm-hmm.
Will you help me? Yes. Will you help me? Yes. And I said, in business, I almost feel like I have to be opposite of that at times because someone just like, can I have this for free? Can you take care of this? Can you take care of this? And it just gets exhausting. And so my default answer is no. So I've been trying to get better at that to blend, to say, hey, they don't have to be two different things. I can think of, hey, how can I value somebody and make a decision where I actually take their thoughts and their feelings into action, but also make the right decision that makes everybody happy, to the best of my ability.
So, guys, we've laid out a lot of stuff for you on this one. I know this was like drinking from the fire hose. We've given the challenge, and we're going to be bringing in some more concepts from John Maxwell.
So let me say the challenge again because I started talking afterwards. Find one way to be intentional to blend your faith and into your leadership and into your business.
Absolutely, guys. So now it's time to
execute. Thank you for learning with us.
join us next time as we reach for the impossible I'm Travis,
And I'm Tyler.
and this is
Strategies for Success.